Hello there, all of you absolutely lovely people. I hope that everything's going well for you tonight. I'm out here doing a little bit of stargazing, and I thought I would talk to you about the time that I visited the ECETI Ranch. Now, I first learned about the ECETI Ranch from a podcast called Dreamland on Unknown Country. And a gentleman was on there by the name of James Gilliland. Many of you have probably heard of him, especially if you're interested in the UFO phenomenon at all. So I was listening to this interview with James Gilliland, and he was talking about this ranch and how he wound up living there and how the UFO sightings at this ranch first started. So I became intrigued by the ranch itself, and I decided I was going to go there. I made the decision to go there, and it's one of those things, once you make the decision that something is going to happen, coincidence and circumstance start working in your favor to make it happen. So, long story short, I wound up at the ECETI Ranch. Now, there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention about the ECETI Ranch. One of them I haven't heard anybody talk about, and that is just how active those skies are during the daylight. Everyone who always talks about the ECETI Ranch, they always talk about the spectacle you get to see at night with all the UFOs in the air. When I got there, I was surprised at how much air traffic there was in the day. I mean, literally, not figuratively, literally, I would look up at the sky and there were little shiny metallic objects just all over the place, far busier than any area surrounding an airport that I have ever seen. There had to be several hundred objects up there in the sky simultaneously. I mean, it was amazing the number of objects there were up in the sky. Shiny little metallic objects, there had to be hundreds of them up there. I would be tracking an object across the sky with my eyes, and another one would cross paths with it, and it's like I couldn't make up my mind which of the two to follow, and that was happening all the time. The air traffic there was crazy, just hundreds of craft up there. And nobody ever talks about the daytime stuff. People only talk about what you see at ECETI at night. And one of the things about that is that it really harms the arguments of the skeptics. Because the skeptics like to say that, well, there are a lot of skeptics that like to say that this is a show that somehow James Gilliland is putting on. And, well, for starters, what I saw there was so much to it. The cost of putting on that kind of a show would not justify what he makes at that ranch. It just wouldn't. And if it was a government-backed misinformation project, well, are they really going to convince enough people of anything by putting a fake UFO ranch out? I don't know. I listen to skeptics of the ECETI Ranch, and it just kind of makes me shake my head, because the arguments that people are making are arguments that would only be made by someone who's never been there. So anyway, I got settled in up there. I camped there at the ranch for about a week. Actually, it was more like 6 days. I set up my tent, had my stacks of bottled water. I was set to live there for about a week, and got to know a bunch of the people around there. Met several families, several single people there. I met some of the people working at the ranch. I was really impressed with the kinds of people that I met there. Just really neat individuals, intelligent, but also open-minded. There was a lot of genuine kindness and camaraderie coming off of these people. The people I met at the ranch really were something spectacular. So James Gilliland, him and the people working there at the ranch were very busy running around the ranch, taking care of chores, doing whatever needed to be done. when nighttime came, James made certain that he was out there because he knew we wanted to spend time with him during the sky watch. So he came out there, and skeptics always make these comments about the laser pointers and how those objects in the sky are just airplanes. Once again, nobody who's actually been there would be making these arguments. But, you know, we were out there. We had the laser pointers out there. There were a few people set up with their notebooks and various tracking websites and everything so that they could tell whether what we were looking at was supposed to be there, like an airplane or a satellite or the International Space Station. The International Space Station was a huge sight to see at the ranch. I mean, you could see that sucker cruising across the sky at high speeds and a very bright light. The International Space Station showed up very well. But we had people set up there with their equipment, and they were tracking what this stuff was, so that we would know if we were looking at a UFO or if it was an airplane or a satellite or anything like that. So anyway, what I saw there at night, first of all, I did see something there that could very well have been swamp gas, because I noticed what the regions around the mountain that the UFOs supposedly have a spaceport in, the areas around the mountain would kind of glow green. And so yeah, that could possibly be swamp gas. That could very well be a valid explanation for that particular phenomenon. Then again, maybe the mountain was glowing green. But what I kept seeing were aircraft. Well, they weren't aircraft, but they were craft that would like come in and make a 90-degree turn straight up into the air, and you could see them leaving the atmosphere. And I saw this all the time. There was constantly craft coming in, 90-degree angle, up out into space. That was just typical viewership. Another thing that I would see is that things would happen in response. Like everybody would turn to look a particular direction, and then here'd come a bunch of lights across the sky. Once again, we had people set up there with equipment to tell us if they were planes or anything else. One very interesting story that I like to tell about what happened to me at the ECETI Ranch is another one of the people there that was visiting. There's this family there that I had gotten to know pretty well. The UFO will flash its lights back at you in response to your question. Once for yes, twice for no. And the instant she told me that, I happened to see, you know, I was like looking this direction and the mountain was right here. I happened to see a light appear on the mountain and another light go up out of the mountain and into the sky. And I just absent-mindedly said, did I just see a spaceship fly up out of that mountain? And the mountain flashed once at me. So for me, that was a very interesting experience. I saw a lot of activity while I was there. I did not see what would be called the hubcap in the sky. You know, I didn't see any up-close, undeniable UFOs while I was there. But there was one night when I decided to go on to bed because I was cold. You know, the ranch is pretty far north, and even though it was August and it was hot during the day, when that sun went down, it was pretty cold there at the ranch. And so I went to my tent to go to bed for the night. I was kind of wishing that I had seen something more personal that night. And I see this craft flying along, looked like a comet traveling parallel to the ground. And it was just light streak, flash of light, light streak, flash of light, light streak, flash of light. And I just knew instinctively that that was one of the extraterrestrials responding psychically to my desire to have something more personal happen. The people who stayed up after me did see things that I didn't see. One of the things about the group of people there, and I noticed this every night that I was out there, you had a bunch of people out there, all different groups, but the most skeptical, naysayer, negative people, there was a little bit going on with them. But then when they went to bed, what we saw in the sky increased, and there were more craft, and there were more lights around. And then the next group of people that they weren't skeptical, but they weren't really psychic enough, which I'm definitely not very psychic. I'm working on that myself, but I'm not there yet. But the people who were open-minded, but they were kind of materialistic, I guess it is, the people who expected nuts and bolts machines, when they went to bed, everything going on in the sky increased even more. And then myself and a few other people went to bed. And at that point, the only people that were out there after I went to bed were people who were really psychic, really in tune with nature, with fairies, that sort of thing. And what they would describe after I went to bed, I didn't see any of this myself, but they described like black clouds that would sweep in and turn into a triangle and then sweep out and move on and things like that. I wish I had have seen something like that. I wish I could tell you that I saw something like that. What I saw was still just lots of activity, but mainly just craft lights flying away at a distance. Lots of 90-degree angle up out into space kind of things. And I got a lot of responses to a lot of my psychic questions. So I did see a lot, but I didn't see anything like what the people described after I went to bed. But like I said, I noticed that there was a ratcheting up that took place there, and this happened every night. The naysayers were the first to go to bed, and the light show increased. And then the people that were open to it, but still materialistic, they went to bed, and what was going on in the sky increased. And then my group of people would go to bed, and the people who stayed up after us described everything that they were saying as increasing. That was my time at the ECETI Ranch. I also got to meet Neil Kramer while I was there, but that's not really relevant to what I'm talking about here. That was my experience at the ECETI Ranch. But anyway, this is part of my 30-day video challenge, a video a day, every day for 30 days, no matter what. So I will be seeing you tomorrow. And always remember, you are loved. You are important. Your needs are valid. The same is also true of everyone else. Please don't forget that part. You know, everybody else, they are valid too. Always remember that. Anyway, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.